previously frozen tofu makes this tofu shaved meat recipe chewier and more meat-like. It's savory, simple, and perfect for sandwiches like my delicious vegan gyro. Hello, I'm Catherine. Bryan's behind the camera, and we are so excited to share today's recipe with you.
Look at this meat. Look at it. It's so like...
I think we need to turn the camera off. We know so many of you are always wanting more tofu recipes. Jackie, we're looking at you. Mr. E, you always tell us about the delicious sandwiches you make from tofu. So I finally have a recipe for tofu shaved meat for your sandwiches, your pizzas, your gyro, shawarma, or donaires. I know that the meat in all three of those is a little different, but you're already veganizing them, so I say you can go ahead and use this recipe on any of the above, and you'll see how easy it is to change up the marinade ingredients to just give a bit of a different flavor to this recipe depending on your use for it. Speaking of getting creative with this recipe and using it as inspiration, I've taken my inspiration for this recipe from one that the burger dude has. He has a tofu gyro where he marinates the tofu, bakes it, and then rehydrates it to get it really nice and juicy right before serving it. I found that to be a great way to get a lot of flavor into the tofu and to get that
juicy factor.
But I've changed around the seasonings, and to make more of a meat-like texture out of this, I use previously frozen tofu. Freezing tofu is not only super convenient, it also creates a pretty different product. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of info and some tips. When tofu freezes, the water content in it expands and crystallizes. So when the tofu then defrosts, it leaves behind all of this extra space that those water crystals created. That leaves the tofu with a whole new texture. It's more sponge-like, it's chewier, and it makes it feel a little more meat-like. I have the same brand of tofu that hasn't been frozen, and it's pretty subtle, but you can see the difference between the frozen tofu. Extra firm or super firm tofu doesn't usually have very much water content in it. This one is actually extra firm, but you can tell that the block is still pretty thick. Sometimes if you get an extra firm or super firm, it's about half this size. So if it's really pressed of its water, then this sponge-like effect isn't going to be as noticeable. But if you use firm tofu or anything softer, then you're really gonna see the difference of what freezing tofu does to it. To freeze tofu, you can actually just toss it into your freezer right in this packaging. You can remove it from the packaging if you'd like and put it in a freezer-safe bag or container. And then to defrost this, just take it out and defrost it overnight in the fridge or on the counter for about 4 to 6 hours, depending on how thick your tofu is. And then carry on with your favorite tofu recipes. Frozen tofu will absorb a ton of flavor and a lot of liquid. So I'll finish slicing this up and show you how to get it ready for your sandwich creations. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and line a baking sheet with parchment paper or a silicone baking mat. Using previously frozen and defrosted firm tofu, gently press out some of the excess moisture with your hands. Slice the tofu as thinly as you can. The thinner these slices are, the more like shaved meat they will seem, but the thinner you slice them, you might get some little tears. Honestly, that's not the worst thing because if any little pieces break off, then they're really delicious. But you can try to keep them as thin as possible without doing that every time. Next, mix the marinade in a shallow dish. 2 tablespoons tamari or soy sauce, 1 tablespoon vegan Worcestershire sauce or more tamari, 1 tablespoon water, half a tablespoon neutral oil, which I find necessary to not have these thin pieces of tofu stick to the baking pan, half a teaspoon liquid smoke for smoky, meaty flavor, a tablespoon nutritional yeast for lots of savory depth, 1 teaspoon smoked paprika, and 3/4 teaspoon garlic powder. Coat the tofu pieces in the marinade and lay them in a single layer on the prepared baking sheet. Bake for 30 minutes, flipping the pieces over at the 20-minute mark and basting this more pale side with any leftover marinade. After baking for 30 minutes, these are pretty crispy. You could eat them just like this as kind of like a crispy bacon substitute.
I've never had them crispy. Can I have one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How's it taste like this?
The longer it sits too, the crispier it'll get.
Yeah, they'll firm up. They're still like a little soft out of the oven, but they'll firm up as they sit. They're tasty though. It's a ton of flavor.
Yeah, totally. Doesn't taste like tofu.
No. What does it taste like? How much of this do we have to eat until I can figure out? Or you can do this to rehydrate them. To rehydrate the tofu shaved meat just before serving, bring half a cup vegetable broth with another half a teaspoon tamari to a low boil. Add the baked tofu meat slices and let them soak up all of that broth. When they have just absorbed the broth and before they get dry again, remove them from the heat and serve them up on your favorite sandwich, pizza, or my vegan gyro. There is so much flavor in here and it's so chewy. This texture is crazy. It changes so much. And for the cost of this, it cost me about $5.15. If I were to buy a store-bought plant-based deli meat, it would cost me about, I think it's $5 for just 156 grams. So if that sounds good to you, then hit that subscribe button and let's make some gyro. So chewy. Now to make this tofu shaved meat into a gyro, I have this Greek style pita, which doesn't have a pocket. It's just a nice fluffy pita. Most of the packages you buy will probably have warming instructions. Go ahead and warm your pita up. And the first thing that goes on is tzatziki. And this is a recipe I have for a vegan tofu tzatziki. Tzatziki is a sauce that's made typically from yogurt and cucumber. There's garlic in there and acid, some fresh herbs. The only thing I find that gives a vegan tzatziki a little bit of trouble is that vegan yogurts can vary so widely in their taste and texture. So that's why I created this tofu version. I have this recipe linked in the description below for you. We'll do a longer video where I show you how to make this and I go into a bit more detail about my reasoning for deviating from the traditional when we're already deviating from the traditional because it's vegan. After the tzatziki, put on some sliced romaine lettuce, get your greens in, then sliced tomato. Are you a raw tomato person? I'm not the biggest fan of raw tomatoes, but in a big bite of this, they're delicious. I think Bryan likes tomatoes.
I do.
Next, we have sliced red onion. And sometimes the red onion on a gyro is slightly pickled really quickly. You can absolutely do that and get even more flavor into this.
A quick pickled red onion would be good.
Yeah, and sometimes they're just pickled like really, really quickly with some even fresh herbs in the mix. It also changes the color a little bit and looks really pretty. So you can totally do that. Now, for our meat. And then finish it off with some more tzatziki, of course. This is so refreshing. And the cucumber. Did I mention there's cucumber in it? I think I did. We'll have to rewind back and make sure I said cucumber. Typically from yogurt and cucumber. It is super refreshing and creamy and delicious. And now, fold up your pita. Hope it doesn't crack on you too much and make it pretty for the camera. What's the Greek version of bon appetit? I don't know.
Oh my goodness, I have not been more excited for a taste test in so long. This looks amazing. It's so big and I'm so hungry. This is gonna be awesome.
Is this your sandwich voice?
I gotta take my glasses off, like roll up my sleeves. This is gonna be good.
See how messy this is.
Ready?
Ready.
That's awesome. That's so good. The tzatziki, the meat, that tastes like shaved lunch meat, like deli meat.
It's pretty chewy, eh?
Oh.
You didn't taste, do you want to just taste like
oh yeah, okay.
the
I'm
shaved
losing
meat?
the paper. I'm just going on.
It's gonna get messy.
This is awesome. This is so good and so healthy. There's like barely any oil in here and we're eating tofu on tofu and greens. You know, this is so good.
And if you wanted to add, I told you it was gonna get messy. If you wanted to add more oil to this, obviously you would get even kind of crispier edges on the tofu meat and it would be a little juicier even. If you use more oil, then you can use more oil. We prefer, like, this is still delicious with very little oil in this recipe.
Look at this meat. It's amazing. I mean, like, this looks like something I'd get at a deli counter. Like, this is, like, legit. This looks awesome. And it's tofu.
Yeah. If we got these, not at a deli counter, but just out, they would probably be at least, like, $9 each.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if it came with, like, a salad or something, it'd be more. So how much do you think these are? You can finish it.
$5
Each?
No, together.
Oh no, they're like $14 for 4, $3.50 each.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I was thinking $5 each, $3.50 each.
$3.50 each, pretty good. And
Very good.
would you put fries in these?
No. Am I supposed to? Oh, is this the donair?
No, I think maybe donairs. Do donairs have fries? I don't know.
Ask Dave. Dave?
Yeah.
Leave a comment.
My brother-in-law is from Nova Scotia, so the donair is his territory. I don't know if I've ever had one. We'll have to go back to Nova Scotia. Sometimes there is fries or roasted potatoes inside gyro, so...
That seems like a lot of carbs.
Yeah, the pita is probably enough for us.
Maybe just
fries on the side, maybe.
With a good sauce.
Yeah. This would be a great meal to have for, you're just going to town on it.
I'm so hungry. It's late.
I'm surprised you haven't started hiccuping yet. Usually when Bryan eats something with his hands, he starts hiccuping every time. And I think
it's
you just...
because I get so excited. I open my mouth really wide and I take in a lot of air. You know,
You're doing good.
One of these videos, we're gonna bring up a Catherine quirk.
I think what I was gonna say was
I'm gonna
that...
eat this off camera.
Are you? Okay. I was gonna say this would be a really fun idea for a summer get-together, I think. Everybody could make their own gyro. You could have some fries on the side, some salads. Delicious. So you probably tell, we talked about donairs, but you can easily change up all the fillings and even the seasoning on the tofu meat and make kind of any one of these delicious pita creations.
Yeah, this is... Wow, this is really good.
Are we gonna top this with next week's video?
Yeah, we're gonna have a special video dropping Thursday on just how to make this tzatziki, but then next week's video, next Sunday, February 2nd, Catherine and I are making together vegan risotto. It's been requested by you. We're gonna do it. We love it. We think it's gonna be perfect for Valentine's Day. It's a great date night.
Cute.
And we're gonna have a date night in the video.
Yeah.
Yeah. No? You don't
we'll
want
just
one?
sit here with
we
some
can just make
candles.
The risotto and eat normal.
No, I'm up for a
Put
date
on
night.
something nice. I'll dress up. Let's do it.
And YouTube's invited.
Yeah, you guys, everybody's invited. Oh my God, this is so good. That meat is nuts. Like, again, look at this meat. Look at it. It's so like...
Does it taste chewier to you than like a regular tofu would be?
Yeah.
Not frozen?
It tastes way spongier, like way more textury.
Yeah. And if you do frozen tofu in like cubes, you can really taste the difference. I think we need to turn the camera off. I'll make you another one while you tear down the lights and do all that kind of stuff.